Hello everyone and welcome to the next video by Quick2Algo YouTube channel. In this we are going to continue our discussion about multi-level queue scheduling algorithm, and in that sequence in the last video we discussed about multi-level queues. There's a simple algorithm. Now today we are going to take a look over the multi-level feedback queue and how it is an improvement over the previous one, just a simple multi-level queue, and it is one of the version that is in some or the other form is used in all the latest modern operating system ranging from Windows to the Linux. Let's see how it works. We will go through the a broader outline of this. We will not pick a particular operating system and how that operating system implements it, but a general outline how this works and what are the core areas and what are the important parts of this algorithm. So let's ask this question, why we are using multi-level queue with a feedback mechanism and what is the goal of this? See, using this algorithm, our prior aim and our initial goal is twofold. First is optimize the turnaround time of the processes. We want to optimize the turnaround time. Turnaround time is completion time minus arrival time of the process. We want to optimize it. We want to get a better result with respect to turnaround time. Second goal is decrease the response time for interactive process. Decrease response time for interactive process. Now, what is this interactive process? See, interactive process is a process that, for example, if a process wants to interact with the end user. For example, again, we will take the example of Chrome, Google Chrome. Say it's a process waiting for something to be typed from keyboard. Okay, so this is a process waiting for some IO depends upon the end user. Now that IO that happens with the user gives the interactivity. So we want to make our machines and our system more interactive with the end user. That is why this MLQ with feedback was designed to decrease response time for the interactive process. Keep in mind, not all the processes. For every process, it wants to optimize turnaround time, but particularly for the interactive process that with respect to end user, it wants to decrease its response time. Now, how to do that? How this algorithm is going to achieve this? So for this, they thought of some few ideas. Let's discuss those ideas. So first idea was, let's do something. We will give preference to short jobs. Short jobs mean less burst time. The process who has a less burst time, we will give some kind of preference. What kind of preference we will just see in the next slides, but some preference will be given to them. Next, they want to give preference to IO bound. We just discussed, right? Say if a process wants to interact with the user, if it's waiting for your keyboard input or your touch screen input, that is also a IO bound process. So we want to increase its interactivity and decrease the response time. So it will give some kind of preference to the IO bound process also. And the third thing is they want to separate each process PI. PI means PI is a subscript, so different process I am representing them as PI. So they want to separate PI into each process into different queues. We know from the last video that multi-level queue has a different queues based on the priority. So, and how they want to separate these processes into different queues based on their need for the processor. So they want to differentiate the processes into different queues based on their demand and need for the processor. Now let's delve into the deeper details as to how is it exactly differing from the earlier multi-level queue algorithm. Now, before going into the difference with the multi-level queue, let's look at some interesting historical facts about this algorithm. See, this algorithm was developed by a computer scientist named Corbato, and he did this in 1962. It was developed in 1962, and because it was such an important discovery at that moment, because of this, he was awarded the Turing Award for this development of this multi-level queue algorithm. So you can understand now, we can look at back at the history and can see, okay, this was a simple process, and because we know, but to achieve this level of intelligence and panache with which they have developed this algorithm, and how easily it solves a lot of our problem, it was such a huge and a big deal at that time. So he was awarded Turing Award for the Turing Award is the biggest award you can get in the computer science field. It can also be seen as the Nobel of a computer science field. So it was a pretty big deal. So this was some historical facts. Now let's see how this algorithm differs from the multi-level queue algorithm. Now, before starting with this, let's see what is a concept called as aging. What is aging? See, aging is a process which is used to counter the effect of starvation. So aging is the concept developed to counter the effect of starvation and how to tackle the problem of starvation. So what the concept of aging says? It says increase the priority of the process in the waiting queue if it is waiting in the increase the priority of a process if it is in the ready queue and its wait time is increasing. So we will increase priority when it is in the ready queue plus its wait time is increasing. So it has to be in the ready queue. It cannot be in the suspended state or any other state. It has to be in the ready queue. And if its wait time is increasing, then we will increase its priority. This is the concept of aging. Now, let's see the difference with respect to the multi-level queue algorithm. Here, process can move between different queues. Earlier, we saw that a process cannot shift from one queue to the other queue because each queue was specifically designated for a particular type of process. Here, there is no such thing. Okay, so a process can move between different queues. And what is the criteria based on which they can move? It's based on their burst time. Second, if a process uses too much CPU time, then move that process to next lower priority queue. So if a process is taking too much time with the CPU, then it means that other processes are waiting. But we want to make our system much more interactive. That's why if it's using too much CPU time, then reduce the priority and shift that process into the next priority queue. Just next, not any other queue, just the next priority queue. Okay. And the last thing is, if a process waits for a long time, in lower priority queue, I'm writing queue in the shorthand just as queue, so don't get confused. Then move it to a higher priority queue. See, now we are tackling the concept of starvation, because earlier what happened in the previous algorithm, if a process was in a lower priority queue, it stayed in the lower priority queue. But now, since if it has spent a lot of waiting time, it has been waiting for a lot of time, then we can increase its priority and shift it to the higher priority queue, so it gets its chance to execute. It gets its chance with the CPU. So this is the difference with respect to a big difference with respect to the multi-level queue algorithm. Now let's see what are the important characteristics that forms the very core aspect of the multi-level feedback queue algorithm. See, first of all, how many queues? These are the questions we will have to ask. How many queues will be there? Okay. Second question will be, what scheduling algorithm will be used for each queue, because each queue can have a different scheduling algorithm as per the designer's need, how the OS is being designed, and how different OS implements it. So our different queues may have different scheduling algorithm, which we saw in the last video also. Now, next question we must ask is when and how to promote. There must be some mechanism to how to promote a process from lower priority queue to higher priority queue. It cannot be a random decision. We have to take some factors, some parameters into consideration. So when and how we will get to this answer that we want to shift this process from lower priority queue to a higher priority queue. Okay, and similarly a similar question, when and how to promote the opposite, demote a process from higher priority queue to a lower one. Okay, and the last question which we must ask is which process to assign to different queues. How we will decide that which process will go into which queue, be it the higher queue or lower queue? How much? There must be some mechanism, there must be some principle that guides this decision. So now let's delve deeper and find the answer to all these questions one by one. Now, before starting with the answering of those questions, those are the questions dealing with the multi-level feedback queue algorithm, and those will give us the parameters on which we will decide how this algorithm will take and perform its priorities and how it will move process from one to the another queue. But apart from that, there is a big global question, a big question that must pop up in your mind is how to schedule a process without, because we don't have any knowledge about the burst time or the IO time beforehand. So how to schedule a process without any knowledge, because in real time we don't have any knowledge about the burst time or the burst time or the arrival time of the process. In the numericals which we solve, that is given in that chart form that burst time is this, IO time is this, but in the real time you don't know. A process can take a longer burst time, a process can take a lower burst time. We have no idea, we have no system to know that beforehand what the burst time of this process will be, the total burst time. So the big question is how to schedule a process without any knowledge beforehand about things like burst time, IO time, and because we don't have these knowledge, and then how to minimize response time and optimize turnaround time. So this is a big question, how to go about all this. So in computer science, there is always a principle that you should learn from the history and then use it to predict the future. So use history to predict future. So what we are going to do, we will do one thing, we will look for the observed behavior. This is very important, observed behavior of the processes. Now let's find out what this observed behavior is and how it will help us to answer the big question and the other question related to the algorithm. And then we will give us a broader framework of the algorithm, how it works in the real time. One observed behavior can be like this. Say if a process is taking too long with CPU, then maybe one thing we can do is demote it. So we can learn something that if a process is taking too long, then maybe we can demote it to the next lower priority queue. This can be one observed type of behavior. What can be other type of observed behavior? See, our goal, always remember our goal. Our goal was to make system interactive. Therefore, we must make interactive processes responsive. This is our goal. This is one of our goal. Another goal was to optimize the turnaround time. Then what is this? What this will tell? Say, if a process goes for keyboard IO, it's waiting for something to be inputted by the user. Then maybe don't demote that process to lower priority, but keep it in the higher priority queue. Keep it in the same higher priority queue. Don't demote it. And but since it is removed, then add it to the end of the higher priority queue. Okay, so we will add it to the end of the higher priority queue, but we will not demote it because it's a process that's waiting for user input. It's not because our input, the way we give input from the keyboard is much slower as compared to the how fast the CPU is executing. That difference is huge. So when we press a button or when we type our name, in that frame of time a CPU can do a lot of things we cannot even imagine that right now. It can be a difference of magnitude of 10 to the power 5 or 10 to the power 6 also. So when we will see about the computer architecture and organization, then we will see how fast a CPU can execute instruction and how slow a user input or keyboard input is compared to that. So that's a topic for the some other day, but always remember that because we don't want to demote that particular process which is waiting for the user interactivity, because our one goal was to increase the system interactiveness, but we will keep it in the higher queue. But since it is in the hierarchy queue, but we will dequeue it and add it to the rear of that same higher priority queue. So these two can be seen as the observed behavior of the process that can help us and give some idea to define some rules for the algorithm. Now let's start designing our algorithm and the rules. What are the rules that we must follow before the designing of the algorithm, or what are the core parts that we must always keep in mind for this algorithm? First is, we have different queues with different priorities. That is obvious because it is a multi-level queue algorithm with feedback, so it has a different queue with different priorities. Now, process from highest priority queue will be picked for execution. Highest priority queue will be picked for execution. Great. We will pick the process from the highest priority queue for the execution. That is good. Everything is good. Now, if in that queue, that highest priority queue, we have more than equal to two processes waiting, then what we will do? We will use round robin algorithm. Yes, we will use round robin algorithm for those queues. Say we have this queue, this is the queue highest, and we have P1, P2, P3, P4. Then P1 will be given CPU, and then and what about P2, P3, P4? This entire thing will be managed by round robin scheduling. This answers our one question about which scheduling algorithm to use for each queue. Here you are using round robin scheduling algorithm for the highest level, highest priority queue, because it serves a very good purpose for us. This is the purpose. P1 will be given to the CPU. After its time quanta expires, P2 will be given, and then this process will keep on happening for all the process in the highest level queue. Now, let's look at the second rule. Second rule says that if priority of P1 is greater than priority of P2, then P1 will execute first This is just an extension of the first rule, so no much big fuss over it. What we discuss in the first rule, we are just writing in a different way and we are simplifying that. Okay, and if priority of P1 is equal to priority of P2, then we will use round robin algorithm. Okay, so this is fine. This is no fuss, no worries. This is just simple of the a simple 2-point extension of the first rule, which we have already discussed in the previous slide. Now let's go to the third rule. Now third rule says that when now what happens when the new process comes? When new process comes in the ready queue, comes in the system, it is placed, where to place it? It is placed, always it is placed in the highest priority queue. Yes, this is very important. You must always remember this. Highest priority queue. When new process come, it is placed in the highest priority queue. This is one point. Now, what is the fourth part of the algorithm? Fourth rule of the algorithm. We have to define a time slice. Now, remember one thing, this is a generic form of algorithm we are discussing. We are not discussing about how multi-level feedback queue is implemented in Windows or Linux or some other distribution kernel of Linux or any other operating system. We are just discussing the broader frame lines. These things may change, may differ in the different implementational part, but these are the best skeleton structure of that algorithm. It may be that new process come, it is placed in not in the highest priority queue, in some other queue, maybe some other implementational part is there, but this is what the gist of this algorithm is. We can play around with it. See, its algorithm is given in 1962 and it was developed around in that time. Now, in this duration of more than 40-50 years, there is much more variation in this multi-level feedback queue algorithm. So don't confuse that why all the algorithm that implements multi-level feedback queue will put the new process in the highest priority queue. No, it's not like that. Every other system, every other designer will implement it in a slightly different way. That can be looked upon on the internet also. I am just discussing about the broader framework, how it was supposed to work, and this gives us the skeleton structure on which we can build upon and develop a better algorithms using multi-level feedback queue also. Okay, so coming back to the point, we have to define a time slice. What is a time slice? What is the role of a time slice? See, if a process uses entire time slice allotted, time slice is allotted to the queue, time slice is allotted to each queue. Okay, time slice, then priority allotted to each queue of the highest, sorry, I made a mistake. It is allotted to the highest priority queue. Okay, if a process uses it's not for each queue, it's allotted to the highest priority queue. If a process uses entire time slot, then and is still its burst time is remaining, then reduce its priority by 1. That is, move it to the next lower priority queue. Okay, next lower priority of whatever queue is there, you have to move that process in that queue. A priority will decrease by 1. Now, if a process uses less than the time slice that is allotted to the queue, then it stays in the same queue. Okay, so what is the concept of time slice? Time slice is allotted to the queue, and if a process uses entire time slice allotted to it, then reduce its priority by 1. Or if a process uses less than the time slice allotted to it, that queue, then it stays in the same queue. Now the last rule, fifth rule, says that after some time, say t dash, after some time, say t dash, move all the process from system to highest priority queue. This is the last thing, and it is done to ensure no starvation. So this is the several rules which were given, and based on this, a different kind of implementational algorithm can be developed. So let's take a look one of the algorithm that is given following these rules, and maybe some rules may be changed. So let's look at that algorithm. Now we are going to look at the algorithm. Let's see what is the step one. Step one, we have multiple queues. This is an algorithm. Those were the rules. We have multiple queues in the system. Step two, we have new process coming in. If new process comes in, then put it in highest priority queue. Highest priority queue. Highest priority queue. Step three, if if process completes, if a process completes within time slice of the queue, it is finished, it leaves the system. Or step 4, if process relinquishes the control voluntarily, the process itself decides that it will give the control of the CPU to the another process within the time slice. This is important, within the time slice of queue, then it is then it stays in the same queue, but at the end of the queue, not in the front. Okay. And what is the next step? Then step 5, if it consumes entire time slice of the queue, then it is preempted and pushed in next lower priority queue. So this is the algorithm that one form of the algorithm that implements this multi-level feedback queue. Okay, so we took a broader overview of the multi-level feedback queue. I think after this you will have some or the other idea about this concept, and I would suggest you to because I referenced Wikipedia and Tenenbaum, so you must whatever course book you are following or whatever internet material you want to take a look, just go through some literature about it, so this concept will be ingrained in your mind. So I will try to make another video on this scheduling. Maybe in the next video we can talk about the round robin algorithm or the shortest job first algorithm. I will pick one of them. I will see which one I can do better. And till then, keep learning and have a good day. Till then, bye bye. Take care.